So yeah, this is basically just an audio. So it's 2 a.m. and I just got done with the drive-in theater. There's other videos in this channel about it, so you know, if that's your thing. And anyway, the movie started at dark, so that was around 9. I got there at like 8:20, and so that's like 6 hours, right? And I had a burger. Oh my God, it was so good. It's called the Wheel-In Drive-In in Port Townsend, and so Grease was the first movie, and Grease is such an interesting movie, right? I mean, there's so much sexism and kind of weird suave stuff. There was a cartoon before the movie, and it was quite violent if you watched it in the video, and sexy naked duck and shooting. It was just kind of weird, yeah. But that's what Looney Tunes were, and Looney Tunes is also a Mandela effect, which is a reality shift. And so, you know, the dancing in Grease is awesome, and I love the songs, and You're the One That I Want, and Grease Lightning, and I Am Sandra Dee, and so yeah, then yeah, there's just a lot of good songs and dancing, and then it's I guess there was a false alarm pregnancy in that one too. But anyway, now that we're 2 minutes in, the video is really about how frickin' profound it is for me to watch Officer and a Gentleman. And watching Officer and a Gentleman at a drive-in theater in Port Townsend, Washington in 2021 is so amazing to me. And I've always loved that drive-in. I mean, the beautiful trees all around it, and it's just, and so old-fashioned and magical, and they don't charge just intense prices, and it's just such a cool place. And Officer and a Gentleman I watched when it first came out, so that would be the early 80s. And so it was probably rated R then. I was probably too young to watch such things. But I loved it the first time I saw it, and I've seen it now at least 20 times, right? I'm 50 years old, seen it when I was probably 12, right? So early 80s. I loved it. I loved the passion between Deborah Winger and Richard Gere, just so intense. And you know how Richard Gere can do love, right? Knights of Rotunda, just loved it. Just this intensity and intense look that he gets in energy. And I freaking love that kind of passionate burn and high passionate connections. It's just so, I just love it. And I loved it when I was young. I mean, I wasn't a child at like 12 to 15, and granted, I'd been around all that stuff already. You know, my family was, yeah, a little rough and tumble, a little rednecky, a little, you know. Anyway, I just remembered it being, Richard Gere I thought was really good looking, and also Deborah Winger. I was bisexual back then too. Well, I don't know why I say anyway, never mind that. I loved the passion between them. I loved the fact that he didn't give up, and the guy kept pushing him, his sergeant, and he was, you know, running this hose on him. He's like, do you want to give up? Do you want to give up? And he's like, no, he doesn't want to give up. And all of the training courses, all of this was at Fort Worden. And of course, in the early 80s, I mean, I moved to Port Townsend 40 years later, right? 30 years later. It really tears me up, because it's like that movie was such a big deal to me, because I loved the scenery. I loved the beaches. I thought it was down south, or I thought it was somewhere different with the being a boot camp or whatever. But the beaches, the water, the terrain where they were training, and then the bunkers, And then downtown, the bar fight is in what's now the Water Street Hotel building. And so to have these areas become my life, you know, I moved to Port Townsend in 2012, and that was in the early 80s. So, you know, at least, what is that, 25, 28 years, whatever, later. Well, it's got to be more than that. So probably 30, so decades upon decades later, Spirit moves me to be here in Port Townsend, and to be the trees that were in the movie. I sat in, and living in a car, I sat in for days, hours, for years. Spent most of my days at Fort Worden walking around the hills, walking the beaches, sleeping and napping and showering, and, you know, just hanging out there. And how could I have known, right, this connection to my childhood, to where I don't want to say ended up, but later in life was fated to then move to that town, Port Townsend. In the movie, it's called Port Rainier. But now that I've been here, I recognize tons of it filmed here. And the end scene, like, there's probably never a time where I would see the end and I wouldn't cry, right? And yes, spoiler alert, but if there's someone out there listening to this that hasn't seen Officer and a Gentleman, oh my fucking God, right? Who hasn't seen Officer and a Gentleman? It's an iconic movie. It's iconic love. Richard Gere's, that one, and like I said, Knights of Rotunda, but Richard Gere, Pretty Woman, you know, too. There's this intensity that he gets. Runaway Bride. But this sultry intensity in Officer and a Gentleman, I think he had in Knights of Rotunda too. But anyway, I digress. I forgot what I was saying. I'm tired, but how profound, and the trees, to see the trees at Fort Worden back then. And then that Foley guy, I think he died in the last year or two, which was the sergeant in that movie. But I know what I was saying, but the spoiler alert. But the end, you know, so at the end, he goes in to where she's working. Deborah Winger's working the grind, you know, just back at her job, and she's working at a paper mill. And he lifts her up, and he takes her out of that life and into a better life. And with real love that gave unconditionally, love that she didn't scream over, she didn't cheat him, she let him go, she stood up for him, you know, there was a deep love there and a deep passion. And I really like that. And it was very profound to me even decades ago. And so now, you know, that scene, that paper mill, is the paper mill here in Port Townsend. And when you come out of the paper mill looking out at the water, and you're looking at it like, not like Fort Flagler, Indian Island direction, but Fort Townsend is this other park, and I've walked there so many times, and it's just so profound to me, you know, the Tides Motel, the beaches down there, that became my life. I'd never heard of Port Townsend until July of 2012. This woman I was dating was from here, and she was living in Spokane, Washington, and she told me about it because I really loved Montana and I really liked Hawaii, and this was kind of a mix, and it was a perfect mix, and the land called me. And the first time we were here, well, I'll talk about that more in a video, I just fell in love with the energy here, and I moved back with the 24-foot trailer like 2 months later, as soon as I could escape. And those stories another day. But I had been on the Olympic Peninsula. I'd been down Highway 101 in my early 20s, but it didn't turn off to Port Townsend. Port Townsend's, you know, Quimper Peninsula or whatever, it's its own little turnoff, and I'd never been here. And so it's just amazing to me. I just love it here, and to see those trees so lush and beautiful now, and they were lush and beautiful then, but so much, you know, smaller. And recognizing every side of every building, and the different bunkers and the different roads and the different houses and the different types of buildings, and what they were then and what they are now. It was a big thing, like, for the Port Townsend film people and the people in the know, right? Of course, back then. But the synergistic of it for me, yes, it's just a movie, but one that I've always really loved for so many layers of reasons. And so it was just so wonderful to see it at the drive-in. And on a Sunday night, there was not that many people there. Whereas the last 2 nights, there was cars just lined up, you know. And the burger was so good. I had a burger there twice now, and there's just something about it. They're just so good. And then, you know, and then you just have your own space in the car, and it's just really profound. And so I just wanted to share that with you. So if there's anybody out there that hasn't seen Officer and a Gentleman, check it out. It's filmed in Port Townsend, Washington. That's now kind of the bigger thing to me. But back then I'd always said, oh, it's just one of the greatest love stories of all time. You know, you got The Notebook, you got, well, Eat, Love, Pray is about falling in love with yourself. But anyway, that's a really good, profound movie. Anyway, let's just say Officer and Gentleman goes down as one of the best love stories. There's just many layers and reasons that I love it. And it was just really neat to see it tonight and see all the buildings. And now I'm just babbling and rambling and going on and on. I'm some sort of a babbling brook. So, good night. Good afternoon, good morning, and good night. And if there's anyone out there who hasn't seen The Truman Show, oh my God, watch The Truman Show, Jim Carrey, right? Where he's like, good afternoon, good morning, and good night. Well, that's what I'm saying now, because I don't know when this is going to load. I don't know when you're going to see it. I don't know who you are, but I love you, and God has blessed you. And, well, bye for now.